guys, today is the day. I'm here with Jacob from Spray & Coat. Jacob and his company did all the interior painting in our house. As you know, Bianca and I just bought this place. Super excited to get it done. One of the things that we talked about getting done right away was the floor in the garage. We have a 4-car garage with the RV space, and as expensive as this house was, we want to make sure that we protect everything. And as beautiful as this garage is, this is my space. One of the things that I don't mind spending some money on, making it beautiful, and we want to do it right. So I've done epoxy flooring before, and I know that I could probably have tackled this by myself, but I don't want to for several reasons. Number one, this is 2,100?
2,100 square feet plus the stem wall.
Yeah.
So we're dealing with about 2,300 square feet.
That includes all the stuff around it, everything. It's such a large space that I did not want to try to tackle this by myself. I could have hired a couple other guys and stuff to help me out, but there's a lot to it. And when we want to do it, we want to do it right. So I reached out to Jacob, who, again, he's done all of our painting on the interior and stuff. He recommended the product, which is a polyaspartic.
So it's a multi-layer system. So it's going to be a 5-layer system that we do on this floor. So one option would be your standard epoxy kit that you could go get at a paint store, where you mix part A and part B, and it comes up with a solid color gloss coating like this. It's fairly durable, although a 1-coat system is never the best for durability, scratch resistance, washability, and tire pickup here in Vegas with the hot tires driving on it. Mm-hmm. So what we talked about was getting into the full chip coating layers, where we have our first coat of epoxy that goes down onto the concrete, and then we lay the chips into it, and then we do a clear coat over the top. With the Citadel coating systems that we're doing, what they would like for us to try is on the raw garage concrete floor that was just built. When was the house finished?
Probably October of last year, so about 6 months ago, roughly.
Yeah. So it's a 6 months cured floor, which is good, but it's a new floor. So Citadel wants us to try a special first layer concrete primer, which we're going to do, and then we're going to build this system. And then on the top of this system, we're going to do an extra thin layer of urethane clear, which is going to give you the scratch resistance and durability that you want for all your toys and everything you're going to park in here. So what all are you going to park in here?
So I've got the RV, I've got the Jeeps, I've got the quad, I've got the kids' little motor cross thing. Plus, if we ever get another side-by-side or anything else like that, that'll be interesting. So just a couple questions real quick. So we went with the Citadel system, and we went with the Citadel because the Citadel is like the premium rust-oleum. Rust-oleum, when you think of rust-oleum, you would think of, I know a lot of people would think, as far as epoxy goes, maybe not a high-end quality, but rust-oleum has been in the business for years and years and years and years. And I know when I think of rust-oleum, I think of it for everything that I use on the RV, on the Jeeps. So if I want something to last, I use rust-oleum. So we started looking at that because, again, it was a lower cost product. And then we found out about the Citadel, or Jacob referred us to it. And the Citadel is the top of the line rust-oleum product. And again, they've been in the business for 20, 25 years. They really kind of pioneered the whole process, if you will, of the epoxy flooring. And I've done 2-part epoxy flooring. We've used Sherwin-Williams. We use Sherwin-Williams on everything inside the house, but I use Sherwin-Williams epoxy at the hangar where we have the airplanes, and I did that with my guys about 11 years ago, and it looked beautiful. I spent probably close to 20 grand doing just the hangar that back then. We stripped the floor. I even bought a machine that I could etch the concrete with diamond stuff. Took forever and a day, made a mess, and it looked beautiful for about 5 years. And even after that, we got the highest end clear coat that you could buy from Sherwin-Williams, and it lasted maybe 5 to 7 years, and then it started turning yellow. It's starting to peel and flake away. It does not look as good as it did. So what we're hoping for here is 2 things. Number one, we're not going to diamond etch it because it is a brand new floor, but we are going to acid etch it today.
Right, so we're going to do a really nice wash system with a full acid etch to open up the top layer of the concrete and allow our first coat of primer to suck into the concrete to simulate how it would look as if we had grinded it. We don't need to grind this floor because there has not been a coating on it yet.
And When I did park my car in here and stuff, I put cardboard down, made sure we didn't get any oil stains or anything else like that. So it's a really, really fresh new surface. This should save us time, save us money. And don't get me wrong, a system like this, I know. So this is running about $13,000 total with all of the stuff, all the labor, everything else like that. I know we quoted it out at a couple other places. So Jacob, you found another place was close to 15 grand for a thing this size. And you're going to see there is a lot of work to it. This is why you want to call in a professional and have it done professionally by someone who does this every day. It's nice. I'm sure a lot of, like I said, I can do a lot of stuff. It's not just painting the floor. That's for sure.
When you get into these high-end coatings, it becomes a little bit more than what a DIY project can do, because you're dealing with the modern day technologies where the coatings are a little bit harder to apply, but they last a long time. So now we're dealing with polyurea and polyaspartic and full chip coverage, which then needs to be scraped and sanded and clear coated on the top of. So with all of those layers comes a lot of labor.
And the polyaspartic is the latest, greatest, newest type of two-part epoxy that's out there.
You don't want to use a standard two-part epoxy here in Vegas because the UV rays will just eat into it. So you open up your garage door, or if you paint the concrete apron out in front of the garage door, the epoxy is just going to get eaten up, disappear, yellow, peel. Okay. So we want to put in indoor-outdoor coating that's pretty much indestructible.
The flakes that we use, obviously we chose the coating that we decided on was called the gravel. And it's kind of a gray and white mix, which looks beautiful. Does it serve a function other than looks?
Yes. Once you get into the layered systems, it starts to build its indestructibleness, to create a word. So rather than just having a one coat that could be damaged, the chips are actually a special epoxy layer chips that are going to go in between the coatings to actually reinforce and strengthen the whole material.
Kind of like cross members in a building or a structure.
Very much so. Also, they look really cool.
They do.
And when you get to multicolored flakes like this, it helps to hide dirt really well.
Yeah.
So you don't have to wash it every day.
So we're going to go strip it, epoxy, flakes, and then 2 coats of clear.
Correct.
It's going to look beautiful.
We're going to have some fun.
Yeah, we are. All right. Jacob, thanks. Here we go.
So when the acid hits the concrete, we want to see a little bit of foaming like that, and we want to see a little bit of steam coming off of it. And that just shows us that the acid is doing its work, and it's opening up the concrete really nice. After this, we're going to scrub it down and clean the concrete really good, which will neutralize the acid and make sure that we get all the dirt off of there before our coating goes on. But that's it. That's how you do it.
Cool. Now it's just a matter of doing the whole floor. How long do you leave it on for?
It basically wears itself off in about 30 seconds. So now it's just going to sit there until we wash the floor and maybe
Cool. Because this is a new concrete floor, we don't need to do a diamond grind on it, but we do need to prepare it properly. The building process can introduce various contaminants, and these not only mar the appearance, but also compromise the adhesion of any coating that we're going to apply. Hence, the acid wash, a powerful solution that not only cleans the surface, but also etches it, creating a bonding surface for the epoxy. It's not just about slapping on some acid and calling it a day though. The process requires precision and care. First things first, safety is paramount. I recommend protective gear, including gloves, goggles, and a respirator. Once geared up, it's time to prepare the acid solution, which is typically a mixture of 4 parts water and 1 part muriatic acid. Next, the solution is evenly applied to the surface using a sprayer. This initiates a chemical reaction that breaks down any lingering contaminants, including stubborn drywall mud and paint splatters. It will also remove any oil. Once the desired etch is achieved, the acid is neutralized and rinsed off using lots of water. This step is crucial to prevent any residual acid from interfering with the epoxy's adhesion. A good acid wash isn't just about aesthetics. It's the foundation for a durable, long-lasting epoxy coating. By meticulously removing all the traces of contaminants, we ensure the optimal adhesion and a flawless finish. With the surface clean, etched, and dried, it's finally ready for the epoxy primer. For this project, we're using the Citadel EPP55, a fast-drying two-part water-based epoxy specifically designed to improve the adhesion of floor coatings.
So the acid etching is done. You can see it looks really good. They did a nice job. The floor is all clean. It's amazing how many nails they found in the cracks, in the little cracks along the ground. They found over 20 nails from the construction. I hadn't bothered looking for them, to be honest with you, but anyways, it looks really good. Like you can see, it's clean. Next step is, today's Saturday, we're gonna wait till tomorrow and Monday for everything to dry. Tuesday, Wednesday, or Tuesday they have some other things to do, so Wednesday morning early, we're gonna be in here to get things going. It'll be exciting.
The guys are here this morning. It's 7 o'clock Wednesday morning. Super excited. Let's go get the garage door open for the guys. And today we start the painting. Today is layer 1. Let's see. All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jacob.
Good morning, Brian.
How are you?
Ready for us to have some fun?
Yes, I am, bro.
All right, it's gonna be a good day.
I think so. I'm excited, man.
We gotta still scrape the floor a little bit more. We're gonna check all these spots and scrape that up and blow it off and get it nice and clean one more time.
Okay.
And then we can actually put that primer coat down to seal everything.
Sounds good.
So we'll probably get that going in about an hour.
So primer coat goes down first, and then when do we put the chips on? Tomorrow?
No, primer coat goes first. That's gonna dry really quickly.
Okay.
And then we're gonna switch to 100% solid self-leveling epoxy, and the chips are gonna go into that. And that's gonna all happen
So
today.
primer, epoxy, and then the chips.
Correct.
All today.
Correct.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff.
It's gonna be fun.
Cool. So we got this done. We got all our flakes ready. We mix this 5 gallons at a time. And is this the same thing where we're going to dump it into another bucket, or we're going to put them in the big things like that?
So this particular mix here, what we're actually going to do is we're going to use the all-in-one packaging, and we're going to dump it into the bucket it comes in.
Okay. Oh, I gotcha.
And that will be 3 gallons per mix, and we're aiming for 150 feet a gallon out of each gallon. So we'll typically see 450 to 500 out of this bucket.
Out of each bucket.
We have how many buckets? Seems like we should have more
2,
buckets.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So 7.
7. How many did you say? 450. So
How many?
that's 2,800 square feet, really.
Yeah. And how many square feet do we have again?
25. Yeah.
Yeah,
21.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it
so
should
we're
be
good.
plenty. May even end up with a bucket left over.
Yeah, and probably
Possibly.
will because we have a sealed surface, so it tends to glide a little bit easier.
And what's our pot life on this product?
Our pot life was 60 minutes, and Ron can attest, that was 60 minutes on the...
It was 60 and then it cut hard?
I mean, we could probably start it going, but we were getting around like all the cut-ins, so just a fresh batch is easier to work with.
You could feel it, huh?
Now, I will tell you, it's more 60 minutes when you dump it out and start working with it. If you leave it in the bucket, epoxy exotherms, which means it generates heat
show you.
and
Right.
hardens.
So we got to get it out onto the floor.
It's
So-
better too, it's easier.
So I guess the very first 3 gallons, we'll figure out, okay, it's going to take this long for us to actually go through 3 gallons, and then you kind of time it so that the next batch is ready right when you run out. Does that make-
Precisely.
Yeah.
Correct.
Cool.
There's no soft feelings when you're doing a floor. There should be some shouting.
Yeah.
Bucket!
Get it, get it, get it.
Especially on the coat we do tomorrow.
Yeah.
That one
So tomorrow's the clear coat,
Tomorrow's
Two
the
clear coats.
2 clears.
2 clear coats.
And the first clear coat will give us 30 minutes of working time.
and that's it.
That's it.
That's not a lot of time.
It's tough.
I bet. Well, those are in the big buckets as well, though, right?
They are. So we pour those off into.
Now, are they 2 different
ratio.
products, or they just the same product, just 2 coats?
2 different products.
Okay, interesting.
We'll talk about that more tomorrow, but he's even providing a hardener that we're going to mix into it, a hardening powder that creates even more durability long term.
Wow.
So you'll see that tomorrow.
That's awesome.
That'll.
I'm looking forward to that.
gonna
That'll
be
be
great.
cool. But 30 minutes is not a long time for this much floor.
No, with tool joints like we have here though,
Yeah.
you have a hard stopping point, it won't matter.
Okay, cool.
A lot of times when you're doing a seamless floor, that's when it really matters.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of these airplane hangers are seamless.
Yeah. That's how the other one was, man. I'll tell you, that was a lot of stuff. But I don't remember how long the pot life was with the epoxy. But it seemed like it lasted quite a while.
If it was the stuff that I think we talked about, it probably had an hour pot life to
Yeah,
an hour
something
and a
like
half.
that.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
But you had to sweat it in, and that's the confusing part, is to mix it and let it set, and then remix it. And that.
Well, we had one guy just mixing.
Yep.
And one guy, painting the whole time. So cool. This looks like the tedious work.
But it's the most fun part.
Oh, yeah?
Scale of 1 to 10, it's like an 11.
So Brian, this type of joint isn't necessarily common everywhere. They either finish the garages with a saw cut with a saw blade, or they do it while it's wet with a tool joint. So that's why they're handling it this way, because it makes it very difficult to fill
Right.
and make seamless when they're finished this way. They serve the same purpose,
Gotcha.
just the way the builder decides.
Citadel's SLE 100 is the actual compound we're going to be using. It's a 2-component, 100% solids hybrid coating system that has exceptional adhesion properties to concrete substrates. Due to its unique chemistry, this coating has great flexibility, good working times, and self-leveling properties while offering really good chemical resistance as well. It gives off very little odor, which makes it a great choice for interior applications. We're layering it on top of the primer at about 16 mils, and we'll get about 100 square feet per gallon.
The key is when throwing the flakes like this, we're using an 1/8 inch flake to get it up in the air so it falls evenly. And what you're gonna do, you're just gonna hold it kind of where you're comfortable, and you're just gonna get your hand underneath it and up. Or like this, kind of up, but you wanna make sure it goes up so it falls down.
It's pretty wide.
Yep, make sure you're not just dumping it at your feet.
Gotcha. All right. Like so.
Yeah, we got a bunch more over here.
Man, this is gorgeous. I love the
Take these shoes off
reflection of
and
the
bring them
lights.
over. What's that? Oh. I'm gonna get more flakes here.
Laying down the flakes was a lot of fun, actually. Unfortunately, I wasn't as good as it as everybody else, but at least I'd give it a shot. The next step after scraping off the excess chips and prepping the floor for the coating was to actually put down the polyaspartic. And for this project, we're using the Citadel UL80. It's a 2-component polyaspartic floor coating that, again, is very low odor. It has some other really good properties to it. For instance, a fast return to service time, and you can drive on it in about 24 hours. On top of the UL80, we added Polyurea 1 HD, which is a single component polyurea that provides a high gloss, smooth finish and excellent protection from the UV rays, which is definitely needed here in Las Vegas. It's also really tough. It gives you abrasion resistance and resistance from some of the harshest chemicals that are out there. When I'm working on the Jeep, this stuff is really going to protect the floor. It's extremely durable and has a beautiful satin finish as well.
So Jacob's back. Good to see you again, bro.
This has been an incredible week, hasn't it?
Look at this floor. It's beautiful. Like you can literally look
into the floor. This is like, have you ever seen like the candy apple red Corvette?
Yes.
And you can look into the paint. That's exactly what happens with this. You can see how thick that polyaspartic coat is on top of the flakes, which is awesome.
It's pretty incredible. We've come a long way since 1 week ago when we were just standing here getting ready to wash it down.
Right?
And now you can drive a forklift on it.
Well, that's one of the things you were talking about, was that last layer of coating, which was not a polyaspartic, but
An actual urethane.
a urethane coating.
Correct.
And that's what is super hard, but super thin.
Correct. So I brought the product codes with me just so everybody knows exactly what product we use, because we're using generic terms like polyaspartic, but Citadel has their own line of products. And so we started with the EP55 epoxy primer, which is water-based.
That was the white coating on the floor.
Yeah, it kind of rolls on like Elmer's glue,
Right.
and it sticks really hard.
I'm still surprised that it was a water base.
It's incredible, right? The technology and how
And
they do it these days.
It actually went on really thin too.
Correct. We wanted it to get as thin as possible because we just needed enough for it to grab really tight. Then we let that cure for 5 hours. We came back and tested it. It was beautiful, and that's when we put the SLE 100,
Which is
was
the polyaspartic.
no, that one was it's an aliphatic hybrid epoxy.
Okay.
So with that one, it was extra thick. Remember, like super thick, and it was self-leveling.
But that's the gray. That's the gray coating.
Gray
underneath
coating
the chips.
underneath the chips.
Okay.
And that's the one that helped self-level with all the little pits that we saw in the concrete. Because remember when we were washing it and squeegeeing it, there was all these little puddles of water everywhere, and that coating helped to really level. And rolling it and brushing it out was smooth like butter.
Yeah. You can see it now on the floor. I don't know if it comes through on the video well, but visually for me as a reference, the floor looks much more, it just, right off the bat, it is more level. You can just tell.
Absolutely. So then we did a full broadcast into that coating that accepted the chips really, really well. And then those chips also added their own level and their own layer of durability to it.
Do you know what the chips are made out of?
They are a type of vinyl. Yeah, so like a UV stable and weight resistant vinyl.
It's amazing how they would, once you throw them up in the air, you would think that they would just and come right back down, but they really spread out well and covered the floor amazingly. You could see where you missed the spots and had to fill in some extra.
That's why it's so helpful to have a professional who knows what to do with the coatings, because it will look really blotchy if you do it wrong.
Well, it's funny because since we put this down too, I've gone over to some friends' houses and some neighbors and seen different floors. And the ones that you get from like Home Depot and Lowe's and stuff, they got a little color flake here and a color flake there. They're really, you can tell that they were just for aesthetics. They're not really providing any kind of protection at all.
That's right.
Yeah.
So now we do a broadcast to the point of rejection. So we throw too many chips on purpose. We go back through and we use a scraper tool that kind of sands them and cuts them down to size. And then we vacuum and blow all those chips. And we save about 50% extra that we can then use for another job. So once those chips are all scraped, cleaned up, we can actually save a bunch of them to use for a future project. And then we get the floor really, really clean. And that's when your favorite product goes on, the polyaspartic. And Citadel calls this product their UL80. We love it because it's really thick. It has really nice high build to help seal in all the gaps around the chips and really give you a nice solid coating above it.
So could you feel the difference between the polyaspartic and the gray coat that you put down as far as the thickness goes?
Correct. So the gray coat, as it went down, the SLE 100.
He was saying like 5 to 8 mils.
Right. And we just lay that down really, really smooth and roll it out. The polyaspartic has even more build. You have a quick working time with it. Once you catalyze it, you got to get it out there, trowel it and back roll it, which you'll see on film as we work that in. But then it gives you that really, really nice thick clear coating, which is UV stable. So we could use it outside of the front apron of the garage. You can use it on a back patio if you want. It's also super durable. Hot tire resistant here in Vegas, washable, all the things you could possibly want on a garage floor. However, it doesn't give you the ultimate durability with abrasion resistance. And so Citadel wanted us to try this
extra fancy urethane. So they're calling it their Polyurea 1 HD, and it's a single component high solids aliphatic urethane. They add a little kicker to it to help it catalyze, but then it also cures through the moisture in the air. And then we mixed a heavy duty powder into it, a crystal powder, which also adds extra durability and abrasion resistance at the end.
So this is going to be super tough. And just to be clear, I actually did a little reading up on this also. One of the things that makes the polyaspartic such a good product is it is like 100 times more flexible than natural, or than not. It's 100 times more flexible than regular epoxy. So the epoxy will crack and bend with the concrete, or not bend, but it'll crack. And so the epoxy will crack with the concrete, whereas the polyaspartic will bend and has a tendency to flex rather than crack, and so you don't get those issues. However, because of that, it's much softer than the epoxy, and that's why we needed that polyurea on top to really give it the hard coat afterward.
And that top coat is really, really thin. So if you imagine how many gallons that we used of the polyaspartic to fill in 2,100 square feet.
Right.
And then we just used a small fraction of that for the urethane and just did a real thin coat just to give it that surface layer protection that you need.
How many gallons did we use, do you know?
I would have to go back there and check,
Yeah.
because Tony was mixing everything, so I don't know for sure.
I know each bucket was about 3 gallons, and we had what, 9 gallons, 10 gallons? I think we had 10 gallons.
Yeah, I want to say we used about 9 gallons of polyaspartic.
Nine 5-gallon buckets of polyaspartic, which would have been like 15, close to 15, well, 3 times 9, 18 gallons? No.
27
27 gallons, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more than a gallon per 100 square feet. And like he said, about 150 square feet.
It's about
per
150 square feet per gallon, right, with the polyaspartic. But then so let's do that for the camera. So
Okay.
the polyaspartic is so thick and heavy that we're only spreading it about 150 square feet per gallon.
Okay.
The polyurea urethane top coat, we're getting 350 to 400 square feet per gallon.
So it's a much thinner layer, but it's much harder. Just by comparison, hardness one to the other, what would you say?
So let's say the polyaspartic is like a 6 out of 10, and then the top coat that we just did is a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
One thing that's interesting to note is that if you just tried to use the urethane over top the color flakes, it wouldn't work because it's so thin it would just sink in. But that polyaspartic becomes like
so
a grout coat that brings everything up to level and seals it, and then the polyurea urethane can do its work right over the
And
top.
sit right on top. I was really surprised when they did the scraping. I was afraid they were going to scrape it right off the bottom, you know. But it came out. It's funny because even when they got done with the scraping, it was just, you could even tell it was more flat and just beautiful. It looked gorgeous. You could have left it that way, but I'm glad that we did the rest because it looks amazing. It really does.
It really does.
Yeah. So it's Wednesday now. We finished with this floor on Thursday, and I haven't parked anything inside. I've kept the garage doors cracked just a little bit. The smell has not been bad at all. It's almost like a sweet smell, almost like.
Right, the top coat, that super heavy duty urethane that we put on it is the strongest smelling of all of them. And so that has that sort of heavy, funky, sweet smell to it.
Yeah.
But everything else, especially the 100% solids epoxy, is almost no odor at all.
Yeah, you can definitely smell it, especially being in here right now. You can smell that there's a chemically smell, but it's not horrible. It's nothing like the epoxy or the clear coat that we put on top of the epoxy in the hanger at all. I mean, the first day, Thursday afternoon, we could look inside, we could breathe. We're not choking on anything. It's very, very livable. And so now, it's funny because I've been like, I just want to make sure that it's really going to cure, really going to cure. Are we good?
We're good. So you always want to allow enough time. So foot traffic is easy, right? Foot traffic after a couple days, that's not really going to cause any damage to the floor. We've had really good humidity, moisture content here in Vegas the last 5 days, and so that helps that top urethane coat kick off, and so we're 100% now. It's hard as a rock.
I was actually a little concerned because I know, We've got my minivan that weighs probably 4,000 or 5,000 pounds. We've got my Gladiator that weighs 7,000 pounds. And then we've got the RV that's easy 14,000, 15,000 pounds. And so I'm always concerned, we did this so that it would be amazing. I don't want to mess it up by driving in here a day or two too early and screwing it up. I even thought about maybe going to Lowe's and buying like some of those, they have rubber strips, and putting those down. But according to Tony, I'm not going to need anything like that. This just should clean up no problem, no tire marks.
With those sort of DIY epoxies that you're going to buy from the store and apply yourself, or just some high solids epoxies where there's a lot of solvent in it, those are going to be pretty thin, and they're going to pick up a lot of hot tire marks here in Vegas, especially when you're driving molten lava circles onto your tire floor. And so that's where you might need some carpets or some extra protection if you did more of like a DIY style floor. But these floors at this level are designed to handle all that. And the dirty tire marks that you're going to pick up over the years are going to be able to be washed off. They're not going to be permanent.
Just wash them right off.
You'll be able to wash it and have fun with it.
And this floor, Tony was telling me, was designed for warehouses where they have forklifts and stuff like that. So it's going to be awesome. I've never seen a warehouse with a floor this nice, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
Awesome. So next, we bring the cars in.
Let's do it.